This is a video I made in 2022 and I re-uploaded it because I think it's still relevant today. The video shows human tragedy because of a train robbery in Los Angeles where thousands of parcels were looted and trashed by criminals. And then politics steps in and exploits this human tragedy for their own benefit. At least that is how I see this situation. So let's step back in time and re-evaluate the Los Angeles train robbery of 2022.
Hello, you wonderful viewers and subscribers. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. Last month, Los Angeles was headline news all over the world because of a cargo train next to Lincoln Park that was robbed by criminals. Thousands of looted and trashed parcels and packages were lying on and around the railroad tracks. The images went viral and soon the whole world could see the scale on which crime is taking place in Los Angeles. California Governor Gavin Newsom was soon on the spot to make a few comments, and to get to work he was cleaning up the railroad tracks for a full hour. So let's jump into this. First, a tragedy has taken place here, a human tragedy. That is what's going on here. Thousands of people who ordered stuff and paid for items that were important to them will never receive their shipment. Thousands of memories have been destroyed, and thousands of businesses who have sent these parcels now have their reputation damaged. People who needed their medical supplies did not receive it. Letters from family members abroad did not arrive. Because of this, there is a huge amount of financial and emotional damage to many, many people. The people who caused this are criminals. There is no other suitable description for these people, and the leadership of Los Angeles and the state of California should do everything within their power to bring those criminals to justice. So it kind of bothered me to see that the governor of California seemed to use this tragedy to get into the spotlight. He organized kind of a photo shoot that made him look good and portrayed him as a hands-on man of the people and as a leader who takes appropriate steps to handle the problem. I thought this was even more annoying because Newsom accused some news agencies of using this tragedy for political purposes, while it looked very much as if he was doing that same thing himself. You see, he could have chosen to organize a press conference that showed victims of this crime telling their story, instead of him doing cool stuff and wearing a t-shirt. This train robbery is disastrous for thousands of people. It should be about them, about the victims of this crime and what they are going through. It should not turn into a commercial for the governor of California. But hey, I suppose that's politics. During his visit to the railroad track, Gavin Newsom said that this situation in Los Angeles looked like, I quote, a third world country, and that this theft was committed by, I quote again, organized gangs. Let's listen to that.
This is not one-off. This is organized theft. These are organized gangs of people. I see what you see. I see what you've been covering. I see what everybody's seen and asking myself, what the hell is going on? I mean, look like a third world country, these images, the drone images that were on the nightly news day in and day out.
Now, I only have to correct the governor of California on a minor issue here. The expression third world country has been replaced by developing nation about 20 years ago, because third world country is kind of offensive. It suggests that entire countries should be labeled according to a league in which we, the Western world, are on top, and some other countries apparently only get a third grade ranking. But I get the point. This part of Los Angeles and many other parts of Los Angeles, and the rest of California for that matter, look like places you would expect in much poorer countries and not in the most powerful and largest economy in the world. So that seems like a realistic observation. To be fair, during his visit to the railroad track, Gavin Newsom did mention the suffering of the victims, but it is kind of shocking to me that one of the first comments that he made on the spot was that what frustrates him the most is basically the image of his state. He said this.
My frustration with this in particular is the images look like a third world country.
Then it happened. Gavin Newsom apologized. Not for running a state with so much crime, poverty, pollution, drug abuse and homelessness. Not for all the businesses leaving California because of all that misery. Not for all the harm that was caused to the thousands of victims of this train robbery. No, Gavin Newsom apologized for calling these criminals gangs. Instead, they should be called groups of folks. Listen to this.
These are organized gangs of people that are coming out, and forgive me for saying gangs. I know that's not a pejorative. They're organized groups of folks.
Really? Am I crazy here? I mean, what kind of effect the governor of California would think his words will have on these criminals? They force their way into a train and steal thousands of items out of it. It is pure and simple robbery, and those thieves are looking at the newspapers, and they are reading now that the governor of California apologizes to them for calling them gangs? Those thieves must feel even more confident and encouraged now. I think I know what these thieves are doing right now. I suppose they are planning their next train robbery. Something else was interesting about the apologies of Gavin Newsom. He said these thieves were groups of people who traveled from one place to another. Listen to this.
They're organized groups of folks that move from site to site. When there's more attention, a bright light on one site, they move to the next site.
Now that is kind of interesting, because how would you know that? How did you establish that only traveling groups of people, and perhaps not individual local people, were part of the robbery as well? Because people who live in homes around the railroad tracks have stated that they saw both groups of criminals entering the streets with vans, and some of the people who have been settling in tents and cars around the railroad track, stealing property from the trains. There is of course an explanation for Gavin Newsom specifically saying that these thieves are a traveling group of people, suggesting there are no locals involved. Because maybe he doesn't want to offend some of his local voters, even if some of these locals would be involved in this robbery. And that of course would be unthinkable if you run a state where homelessness, poverty and drug abuse continue to be very severe problems. If the largest city in your state has 50,000 homeless people, of whom many are very poor, desperate and addicted, of course it would be impossible that some of these people would resort to criminal activities. We better not suggest that that might be part of the problem. Look, I'm just a guy from Europe, so what do I know? But observing this from the other side of the world, to me, it looks like the governor of California is using this train robbery to make himself look good, and while doing so to offend the least possible number of his voters, even if it means he has to apologize to criminals. Then there is another interesting aspect of this story. Some of the media reported that these train robberies have been going on for weeks, others said it was going on for several months. Now, it's in the interest of the governor of California that this has not been going on for years, because then of course we would be asking the question, if this has been going on for years, then why didn't you deal with the problem much sooner? So lucky for the governor, most of the media suggested this was going on now for several weeks or perhaps several months. But when I saw these images of thousands of parcels and empty boxes on the railroad tracks, I thought there was something odd about it. There were so many of these parcels lying around the railroad tracks, and some of them seemed to be so much decayed by the weather that I could hardly imagine this has only been going on for a few weeks or a few months. So I thought, let's dig into Google Street View to see what we can find out. Now, Google Street View has had a January 2022 update for some of the main roads in this area around Lincoln Park. And interestingly enough, in Google Street View, we indeed can see all these packages lying around the railroad tracks in January 2022. Amazing, isn't it? This situation is now kind of documented for research purposes. The images are a bit blurry, but perhaps it's interesting to step back in time using the Street View time machine. Let's explore this area in 2021. And what do you know? It turns out this train robbery situation is not a thing that has popped up the last few weeks or the last few months. Look, this is June 2021. That is 8 months before uploading this video. Yet there are already quite a few empty boxes visible around the railroad track. It doesn't prove trains have been robbed, but it is a rather plausible explanation. Could it be an issue that dates back even earlier? This is January 2021. That is 13 months before uploading this video. And even then, there were already empty packages lying around that same railroad track. Well, okay, now I get the hang of it. Let's step back to December 2020. Again, loads of empty boxes around the railroad tracks. Of course, not as many as in 2022, but even in October 2019, that is almost 2.5 years before uploading this video, packages are lying all around the railroad tracks in this area. So, what did I learn from the research I did for this video? A train was robbed. Thousands of people were victim to this crime. And then the governor of California stepped in with his own media show. That was not about the victims, but showed the governor in a t-shirt while acting as if he was tough on crime, while at the same time he was apologizing to criminals. I guess even their vote is good enough for him. And in reality, this whole train robbery thing has been going on for at least a couple of years. But all that time it was caused by traveling groups of folks. No local people were involved, because it's unthinkable that there is a connection between California's homelessness, poverty and drug abuse, and its shocking crime rates. Please give my video a like and a comment, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like these. It would really help me to grow my channel and create more content. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next video. Bye.